So what you'll do is, you can, just to kind of, for some housekeeping, so if you guys want to, review the agenda, and then someone can make a motion to approve or to change or move things around. Once you get, a motion, you could also then, in a second, you could open it up to public comment, see if the public wants to move anything around, and that's up to you as a commission to decide whether, you want to take that into consideration or not, to kind of go through that process.
Usually as the chair, you can make the motion, one of these two.
And I'm not really familiar with all this,
I know.
so.
I don't think it.
We were
It's been
new to it
8 months
before,
since-
before, so.
It's been 8
tell me
months
to
since
say
we did
something,
this.
I will say it.
Well, I mean, I've looked this over, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Unless we need to read through it.
And I can't do anything.
Right.
I'm just a liaison.
I read through it at home, and I thought,
Yep.
yeah, I guess it's fine.
Okay, so second by
I
Sherry.
second.
Okay, and then you can open up for public comment.
Yeah,
Alright.
and how do you, I
We
mean,
have
do you
to-
all wanna open it up to
Open up.
possibly move things around if people have things they wanna talk about?
You
We're
can,
opening up
but-
for, public input.
I'll jump in real quick because my time's short.
Yeah.
I'm Julie.
But they're on the agenda.
Oh.
Do you wanna move anything on the agenda?
Oh, you know
Yeah.
what? Part of my public comment was gonna be, it'd be nice that there are a few action items you guys have, that if we, in the future, maybe have those up at the top for people that are short on time. So yeah, thanks for clarifying where I should be, but
Yeah,
that was a suggestion I had.
which items
Action,
would
yeah,
you?
Any of your action items, I think.
7 and 8.
I know they're just like,
And 8 up on
I see,
4.
yep. I mean, I'm okay with
I'm
moving
okay,
it up,
fine, sure.
moving them up today, if that's a,
Mhm.
it helps sometimes with people with short time, because
Yeah.
when you're making recommendations, that's usually what public's interested in.
do we need to motion that too?
Yes, you need to change your motion to move items on the agenda.
I see.
Okay, we're
Motion
gonna
to
move,
approve it.
move 7 and 8 up to the 4 and
Under
5.
four, under 4.
Under 4.
So it has to be, okay, yeah.
So one has to move and
So
the other one
we-
has to.
Somebody's gonna second that move.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Who moved? Oh, he did, but he's not allowed to, is that right? So the two of us have to? Oh, goodness.
You guys wanna just stick with your, are you willing to amend your original motion? We'll just do that. Sherry?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just stick
We'll
with
learn a curve.
the.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I did again, just tell me what to say.
No, it's all good.
Okay, so Julie
That's the
made the
official.
motion, we're gonna move 7 and 8 under item number 4, Sherry's fine also with that,
Okay.
second that,
Great.
Okay.
and then you could call, is there any other comments? Is there any other comments?
Are there any more comments?
Any other public?
Any more comments from the public?
I support your motion.
All right, so we will move on to the next
All
part
those in
then.
favor?
All those in favor?
So very good.
All right, let's move on to the next part. Are we going to 3?
Yep.
Okay, number 3, public input.
We just did this.
No,
this
I
is
know we had
actual
public input
comment.
for
I see.
the agenda.
I thought we already moved on.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like.
I kind of was inappropriate and jumped in. But I'll just, is it fine if
Go first.
I'm superseding his hand, he was very polite. And also my boots aren't clean, so.
And you're,
Okay.
and you are who?
I'm Julie Christie, I
Okay.
live in town, but
Okay.
farm right next to town.
Christie
so-
Ranch?
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
yeah, that's what I had caught on your agenda. It'd be nice to have the action items, maybe ideally up at the top, just so if anybody is in a time constraint, they can at least catch in on those. And then, packet material's great whenever we have action items, so if there's ever any additional material, like when you receive the agenda, like it's nice for you guys to review that too. Online, we were given 1 item for Town Square, but I see there's 2 additional action items that didn't have packet material. And,
Well, no, I think she's talking about there's
Yeah, there are
no
two
traffic
items.
calming installation
Oh,
or
okay.
fire hydrant.
There were.
and I think for you
Okay.
guys as a reconvening commission, that's, if it's inappropriate, or we have, I remember you were on our prior commission, and Elizabeth, are you girls new commissioners for this?
Mm-hmm.
No,
No, we've been here for a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Since the beginning, I mean, we were
Since the
part of the
beginning.
original.
Well, I understand there
Yeah.
hasn't been a meeting in a year.
Right.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
and that concerns me too, because there was a lot of public that watched that recording and I felt like I was being talked about in that meeting. I know it was really pushed on that it was all Matt, and I think Matt had legitimate concerns that he wasn't feeling heard on and got a little loud about it, and everybody's their own individual, but there was more commentary in that meeting that was to these people and these individuals, and I felt like, I'm always here to try and stay up to par with what's happening and to be a positive note, and maybe I'll reflect on maybe what staff recommendations are here and there, but I still feel like there was people that came to council and were concerned about that too, and it just got swept under the rug. And everybody was off agenda at that meeting, there was no protocol taken in adherence, so I just think it'd be really important in the future that to not have any public backlash in a way that people feel offended like I do, that you didn't even know you were dragging me into this by the commentary that was made, but me viewing the video, I felt offended by it as well. And so I think it's important we just really focus on our Browns Act things, staying on agenda, not going back and arguing or going off agenda, just stuff like that. I kind of advised it at the economic meeting last night too. I'm not just picking on you guys. And I just think it keeps the forum with the community a lot healthier. And then they're not watching recordings later and they weren't there and they realize, oh, well, great, they were talking about us. It's our online talk or something that is bringing this drama into these groups. That's not our intention. And it's nobody's intention to have that dynamics. So just to kind of come in, and I'm glad we're coming back. There's amazing things that Arts and Heritage committees and commissions do all over our country. There's some great videos on YouTube with some really cool projects that these other arts and heritage groups are doing all over the country. And just watching them over the last few years and stuff, I'm like, dude, we have some cool potential. So I'd like to bring more of those ideas back at another public comment time. And I appreciate you just hearing me out. I think we're starting again now, and it's good to be on a good foot and transparency. Yeah, and involvement. Yeah, thank you.
You first, or?
I'd like a good definition of heritage. I understand the arts, but the heritage part of the commission. Definition of what you think heritage is.
I mean,
I don't answer
I
back,
don't have
but
the answer,
there-
no.
this is a no.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's a comment time, so we can talk about that. Maybe we want to put that in or something.
Maybe on the next.
It's not a back and
Next
forth
agenda.
conversation.
So,
I guess Google it or,
But I'm just curious, so you would like to hear a discussion on that, maybe for next time, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, like what heritage means for us in Blue Lake. What
sure.
are we looking at specifically?
okay, cool.
My name is Kent Sawatsky, and I was raised on the hill up here, so I've been around a long time. I consider myself to be a connoisseur of fine art. Very little of it's created by human beings. Mother Nature is the artist that I follow and believe is the true artist. I do appreciate good art. I feel this shirt's art. I have a beautiful pocket watch, it's art. I have a little something I brought back from Mexico. It was done by the indigenous people down there, and I feel that's art. So I've also had, when I had the Emporium building over here, I had people displaying art in there at one time, and other people were artisans who made things. I did want to go back to what Julie said, and I think we have one conversation here, hope that it won't ever come up again. After reviewing the video and the context it was, we felt that a lot of us in the community, I didn't object to the name Woodawat. I get along with the tribes fantastically, but we were made to feel that anybody who had an opinion about that was a racist. And if you want to review the thing, I think you'll see where that context was and how that came about. And that's unfortunate. You know, my grandchildren are from one mother's from the Philippines and the other ones are from Mexico. I spent half my time in Mexico, and those are very valuable people to me. So I feel I'm on the opposite of being a racist as far as that goes. We don't ever want to have to discuss that or have anybody feel that's coming again from this commission as it came before. But that's the angst that you put up with, and that's hopefully a thing of the past. Let's just leave it at that. Wanted to make that comment. you'll find that I have a strong support for the tribes. I get along with all the tribes except one, and I get along with all of them because I don't get along with that particular one. I do get along exceptionally well. I've had sit-downs with Arla Ramsey up here with the Blue Lake tribe, and I feel I work quite well with all of them. The Hupa tribe put up, I got a hold of the linguistic, and he said, I said, what's the definition of karma? Well, the next day he found in his language karma. I work well. I own multiple village sites, including one outside of town here, and also a burial site up in Willow Creek. Well, the biggest compliment I had is, I said, you can have the site, or I deed it to you, whatever. He said, we trust you to be the keeper of the bones. So, I have a great respect for our local indigenous people and the ones in Mexico also. That's a little bit about me, and if you have any questions at any time, I'm easy to get a hold of, and I'm happy to try and work with the community here to develop a place, especially down in the ozone. There's supposed to be housing down there for them. There's only 3, but all those housing projects should be work-live situations where artists can live and also work in their situations. Strongly support that.
I have one little comment, and that, is about, the naming thing. I went back, to find the agenda item that may have alerted folks to the fact that there was gonna be a discussion and a name chosen. And I didn't find an agenda item that said that that was gonna happen at that meeting. And, I mean, there was an agenda item that talked about discussions, and different things, but I think that it wasn't really specifically stated, that the commission was going to choose at that meeting. And so I think that it's important to, make sure that your agenda reflects what you're doing, and that you do what your agenda says, so that if folks do wanna weigh in, they have an opportunity, to attend the meeting and contribute to the conversation. And also, I think in that way, you are, you have a much better chance of your work reflecting the desires of the community, as a larger group, as opposed to, maybe some folks that, come for a specific item that, if it's not accurately reflected on the agenda, that's another reason why people might get upset. That a decision has been made, or a recommendation made, and then an action taken on that recommendation when people are they didn't have an opportunity, or feel they didn't have an opportunity to be part of that conversation. So, thanks.
Is there any others that would like to speak for public comment? No? I think we're, all right. Do I have approval to go to the next part?
Yeah.
Let's go next. All right. Let's go on to meeting date and time change discussion action.
Alright, so you guys meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. That's been problematic, to establish a quorum for everyone. It also falls on the day before food commodities, which is why we're in this little room, because right now Skinner store is full of commodities. So thinking if you guys could maybe discuss amongst yourself a date and time that would work better, we can kind of go through that process, so that we can get you guys on a more regular schedule.
I think I took a survey.
Oh,
Do you have the results of that? Did you guys get it? Was it for that?
Oh, I think Annalie was just surveying you guys
For
to
this.
try and get this meeting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I went to
Basically.
New David Thursday.
I usually have board meetings, at Del Arte every third Monday. Sometimes it's the fourth Monday, but that's my main evening conflict. Regularly for next month, like I'll be in rehearsal on like all that week that is deemed like the 19th, I think, or something like that. That it was set for the next one, at least that's what I saw online. So I wouldn't be able to come that week at all personally, unfortunately, but. so I don't know
What
if.
day is your
June-
meeting? Tuesdays.
The fourth Tuesday is
And
council.
second, yeah.
And
uh,
sometimes the second, if there's a
well,
special need for a special meeting.
No, I have, the second is the, economic development.
Right, at 4:30.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah.
So there's already meetings on the first
You can't talk about this.
Monday.
So maybe you should look at the calendar so you know which days are
Well,
there.
okay, we are, so, do you wanna, do you have commitments?
My days are a little bit more flexible,
Okay.
so I'm trying to see where you guys land,
Mhm.
'cause
So,
I can move things around.
Okay. I mean, do you want to just have all your meetings on Tuesdays then? If you have, that way you'd have Tuesdays a meeting, Tuesdays a meeting, Tuesdays.
I could, but yes, I could do that.
Is that intense then for you?
Just
That's a lot of
Tuesdays? No, it's
meetings.
easier to remember.
I see, okay. Yeah, I mean, just like I said, I wouldn't be able to make it in, Tuesdays are no, sorry, there's something else. Taking a class that I really like to take. You can't do Thursdays. Could we do Mondays or no?
Monday's fine.
I can do Monday. Could it be,
Friday's
do you
fine
have a
for me.
Monday?
So we have Public Safety Commission is the first Monday and Planning Commission is the third Monday.
Okay.
So you could do the second Monday.
Would be better, and that would not conflict with my monthly board meetings.
So second Monday?
But we, Alice, I wonder,
Oh,
Find
yeah.
her. second
Was she,
Monday.
was she coming? Well, Wednesdays weren't working for her,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean,
clearly.
Yeah.
and then you guys, if you wanna adjust your time too, you could do that as well. I don't know if it helps to be a little bit later, for anyone getting off work, if that's a consideration.
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I can also adjust my workday a little bit, you know? So if it was a little earlier, I mean, cause these go long, like 2 hours is a really long meeting.
Yeah.
Um,
Hopefully they won't go 2 hours, and we
Okay.
can kinda get clicking on stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, 5:30 or 6, either one is fine with me, if people have preferences, but.
Just from a staff perspective,
Yeah.
6 is a little bit better for me, it just allows me, like, if I have to,
A little break.
yeah, just get home and
That's fine.
get
Okay.
food for my kid or something, or
Yeah.
take them somewhere, then I have a few minutes to get back here and get things set up for you guys.
So the second Tuesday?
Second Monday.
Second Monday. And we'll have to double check it with Alice or Allison?
Alice. Okay,
At 6 p.m.
We,
I won't be here next week. Yeah, I'm gonna be home.
so we have established a day,
Yes.
alright.
Alright, so you
Second
guys
Monday.
should, so how do you guys wanna handle this? Do you want to, formalize it right now, or do you want to bring it back? Set your next meeting for the second Monday, and then you could formalize it at that meeting, and that way if there is a weird conflict, you still have one more meeting to try and figure it out for Alice, or do you wanna just go for it and hope for the best?
Maybe that sounds good.
I think if we can say, okay, let's do this, then maybe.
That actually is true, if it's
Maybe
set in
it would
stone, it's more likely to happen.
Yeah, okay, so you guys wanna make a motion to do
Yeah.
that?
Make a motion.
I move that we make our monthly meeting the second Monday of the month at 6 o'clock.
Point of order, your agenda reads as following: the public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. Are we gonna follow that particular one on each item or not?
You normally take a first and a second, and then open it up to public comment.
Okay.
And then you can decide if you want to adjust your motion at that point if necessary.
After each one?
Okay, so we're gonna ask a public comment. on
So you
that.
need a second. So we're gonna change,
Sorry,
so the
no,
motion is to
okay,
change the
it's
monthly meeting to the second Monday of
Yeah.
each month at 6 o'clock.
Okay. So I need to second that. Yes. Since I'm the only other one. and then we open it to comment?
Yes.
And does Randy need to do that?
Are we ready for the comment?
Yeah.
Okay, public comment?
I support your scheduling and your reasoning, it makes total sense, it hasn't worked before, it sounds like this is going to work well. I did want to make another note on this thing. The chair is the one who would say someone is out of order as far as speaking. The liaison from the city is not appropriate to go ahead and tell somebody they're out of order. She could make a mention to you, and then you would be the one who would admonish somebody for trying to speak out of turn. So I just wanted to make that quite clear as far as procedure goes. You have your meeting and your action set up now for your meeting. You may wish to go through your, how this is set up. I believe most places that the chair can make a motion, but again, I highly recommend that you find out all the criteria and how these meetings are run, and so that you can do them according to what is required. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Can I jump into?
Sure.
So my only suggestion would be another Monday meeting, back to the public perspective, is we really do get pushed to our 72-hour allotment for when like agendas are posted and if we get some packet material. And so that puts it coming out like, so like if it's coming out like late Friday or something like that, and we've already got all these other commissions stacked up on Mondays, that there are like a lot of people that if the meetings were actually, I think you guys are fine, kick with your schedule. This is just a thought for the future if we have another rescheduling idea. But when we have questions about the agenda and stuff like that, we then have like city staff time to call in during the week. Where when it's kind of slapped on us on Friday through the weekend, we got like a little gap on Monday to like scramble with everybody else. And so just some thoughts and considerations for the public. We've already got quite a few commissions that are rolling in that same boat. And nobody's really made a big deal about it, but I will just put that little pointer out there for the future.
All right,
Can you call for the vote?
is that everything?
You gotta vote to, you have a first and you have a second, and then you vote whether you're gonna accept it.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
All
I
in
thought
favor?
we already
You didn't vote on
No,
it.
you got a first
got
and a
first
second, and then you have to let
You'll
the
get used to it.
public comment, and then you can, at that point,
Formal.
if the public made a statement that you wanted to consider, you could
Okay.
consider amending your motion. Otherwise, you bring it back and, bring it to the floor to vote.
Okay, are we good to go to the next part?
All in favor of having this, you would say.
Oh, okay.
Monday, you mean?
Well-
We're in favoring Monday after we've heard public comment.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of the second Monday of the month at 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Yeah.
Passes.
All right, it passes, all right. We're going on to the next part of the agenda, number 5.
We're gonna move 7.
Oh, yeah.
So yes,
But
and
it is number 7 now. I mean, number 7's number 5.
It's number 5.
Yeah.
And number 6 is
So-
number 8.
Art-based traffic calming installations, discussion and action.
Yeah, so this is an item that, we're bringing forward, you guys the commission had been working on this prior to, us not having, any regular meetings. And part of those discussions, we're talking about, utilizing art in the community to address some of our traffic issues. And some of the thoughts were, revolved around looking at, art crosswalks and different ways to infuse art into our traffic system to calm traffic down, slow traffic down, bring attention to high traffic areas or areas that have varying intersections of uses. So this is something that I believe you did have an ad hoc at the time, but I don't believe those members are still on the commission. So I wanted to bring it back for you to consider either creating an additional ad hoc or just moving this conversation amongst yourselves. It's totally reasonable to keep this within the full commission if you so choose, but the ad hoc was doing a little bit of groundwork. Diana Lynn at the time had done a lot of work on art-based crosswalks, looking at regulations, looking at areas for implementation. So this is an item that for you guys to kind of pick back up and decide how you'd like to move forward.
You were saying that she had that research. Is that something that could be shared with us again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that would be great.
And so isn't there a commission that's the public safety?
We do have a public safety commission, and so the public safety commission had identified some areas of concern that they wanted to kind of focus on. And they had then kicked that over to the Arts and Heritage Commission to actually get some input and dialogue about what those installations could look like. So they had identified those needs. We had looked at it through our local road safety plan as well, but the commission felt that the actual recommendation for an installation would be better suited to the Arts and Heritage Commission's role. So this is more of looking at a recommendation to send back to the Public Safety Commission, which would then present that to the council for consideration of installation.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I feel like, yeah, I would need to do research on this and get some more materials together to have an actual discussion and take an action on it personally.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what she had brought to the table at all. What we discussed, if she discussed it, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I just remember a little bit of, possible, non-distracting ways of doing them, right? Like, cause some things I remember were cool, but a little bit distracting. That's all I remember, so.
Yeah, so if you guys want to bring this back as a future agenda item, that's totally appropriate. Maybe everyone could do a little bit of homework. I could find some of the information that we had previously, and some recommendations from the Public Safety Commission as well, and get that to you guys. And then at the next meeting, we'd be better equipped to maybe take some next steps in making a recommendation, and possibly, I think the end goal is to, by this summer, to have an actual project or two. And I think the commission had identified the area up at H Street, by the preschool, the trail, and just kind of a large, wide intersection that we get a lot of complaints and concerns about traffic up there going too fast, and using a more defined art-based crosswalk area to just bring more attention to the fact that that is a high pedestrian, bicycle, intersection of uses at that point. And using it also to kind of help beautify that area as well. It's a really nice spot where, everyone uses the trail and the bridge, and there's lots of kids up there at the preschool, so it's kind of a nice place to maybe start a project. And then I do know part of the Greenwood project that we'll be going to construction for in June. There's also opportunities on some of those crossing areas, especially by the school, to do an art-based crossing. And we talked about maybe doing a project with the kids, but just to use art and color to just gain more attention to motorists, to bring more attention to the fact that this is, a school zone, and to just pay more attention. And they've proven to be very effective. They're cost effective, and they're also very effective at slowing down traffic and bringing attention to space.
So if we wanted to do some research, art-based traffic, so where would I even start to look this up?
I would Google like art crosswalks.
Okay.
Art-based traffic calming, just some of those keywords. I think you'll get a lot of information.
Okay.
And was this somewhat the idea with the traffic circles in the middle?
Traffic circles are part of that. We do have a plan for the mini roundabouts. And there was a lot of talk then about art sculptures within those roundabouts, or, creating those in a manner, that, had a bit more of an art feature as well. So that's totally an opportunity.
We good to go to the next part?
Well, we have open.
Public?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, public input, that's what I meant. Public input?
Thank you. It's an interesting process. I'm just saying, if there's anything that's made available to you by staff rather than your own research, it would be appropriate to post that on the city website, so we would have access in the same time frame you would, so we would know what you were discussing, and we could do our own due diligence on that. I did want to point out, as far as artwork, there was a very large group of people that showed out on one of the mini roundabouts, And, the people just about unanimously requested a stop sign rather than the mini roundabout. I believe that was the one up on I Street, is that the one? And so if you would like to go ahead and maybe design some artistic thing around the stop sign, the four-way stop that everybody's requested there, rather than the roundabout, I think that would be appropriate. You may wish to go ahead and have staff provide you the date and time when all that testimony was made, so you'll be aware of what the public's input was on that. You're gonna find a lot of us in Blue Lake, we really like the wide streets because there's room for, both parking, for bicycling and pedestrian. And to narrow things down sometimes, can cause that to be more troublesome than some people think with all kinds of interfering things. So, a little bit of input from us regarding the artistic part of some of those designs, so.
I jumped in again. So, I do remember the dialogue a little bit. It is kind of not as fresh in my mind either. So I agree that you guys maybe motion to table this to another meeting. Justin's the man. He's got it on our, Blue Lake News.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe just going back and refreshing on that. For the sidewalk or the crosswalks, like Mandy was describing, have a visual aspect, I think that's really cool. But I would think long-term with maintenance on that, like, okay, how much is it gonna take to keep that fresh paint there, like something that's not maybe too out there and detailed out, that it'd be hard for, I would assume Public Works are gonna have to keep up with keeping that fresh, and nice. And I like the ideas that were already put forward in the past too, in the locations. It is a nice, so like when the school walk there too, just stuff that's visually bright for people to have that contrast if somebody's on the road. So definitely support it, but I keep it in a way that we can maintain it, that's not complicated in the long run.
A little tiny something. When you're working on a project that involves another commission, it's possible to have a joint meeting, with both commissions. I think there's I haven't seen that done in Blue Lake, in the last few years. I don't know if it's happened before that, but you could definitely have a meeting where everybody gets to chat about the same topic, and you might find that's a really productive, opportunity. So just throwing that out there.
Any more? All right.
So we'll just add that to a future agenda item, bring that back.
We all done?
Yep.
All right.
Do you wanna move that second? I second.
All right.
And then we have to all those.
No,
you're
Okay. Every time.
I apologize for my lack of protocol.
No, that's okay.
I'm so out of it.
Me too.
Okay, we ready to go? Next one, all right. So next, it's gonna be sixes is 8. So fire hydrant and utility box art project discussion and action.
Yeah, so this is bringing back, resurrecting another project that you guys had started to talk about. Kind of in line with the art-based traffic calming installations, just this is more of a beautification project for the community. It's also kind of a low-cost type of project that brings a lot of value. This is something that could be implemented quickly in the downtown area specifically, just to kind of brighten up space. And a lot of our fire hydrants, we were just talking that a lot of them need to be repainted anyways, and so this could be an opportunity to allocate resources from our funds for painting of the hydrants to painting the hydrants in a much more artistic manner. There's also, I think, only one utility box, and it's the one by Del Arte, and I was hoping that Julie would be able to help advocate for that, but I think that one, it just screams out that it seems very frontal, and it's been graffitied a few times, and it would be great if that, even if that was a first project, to be able to do an art project. I know Patricia Sennett is really experienced at that. She's done several of those in Eureka, and probably could give some insight. But thinking about using kind of the utilitarian aspects of our infrastructure and, our setting to kind of, you know, artsy up and brighten up some of our spaces, I think is an easier project to kind of delve into versus taking on like a large mural or something.
Right,
So,
right.
I was hoping that the, commission would consider that and maybe even take, some action to identify maybe a couple of projects to kind of focus on, cause I know you guys are, you know, it's a small commission and, but I think if we take some bite-sized things, we can start moving forward and,
Is there
so-
grant money for that?
there might be, I mean, there might be like a small art project that I could write for, some of the community funding sources might fund that. And like I said, we have to paint and repaint roads and fire hydrants anyways, so maybe that's that could be folded in rather than just painting it yellow and blue and red. We, you know, provide some resources for some other colors of paint. I don't know, so.
It's nice if the artist gets paid, if there's money for that.
Yeah, right now there's
Out there
not,
in the
so
world.
if there's a community project or if there's any volunteers in the community that would be interested, or maybe it's an adopt a fire hydrant or adopt a utility box type of program, and, like we do a lot of things in the community where we just have to, you know, see where people can step up and help out where they can, so. And I don't know, Julie, if you have any ability to advocate for that utility box?
I mean, I guess I'm unclear what you mean by advocate for it.
Well, I don't know if it's technically Del Arte's infrastructure, part
Oh,
of
that
your
would be a good
utility
question
infrastructure
to
that
ask.
goes, or, I mean, we'd have to get probably approval from PG&E or whatever, but,
Right. I mean, I can definitely ask about it. We are at very low capacity for
Mhm.
us to do any, I mean,
I don't
there's
even
only
think.
a couple of us.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think
trying.
that we would be asking for you guys to do it,
Yeah.
but just to approve
Just
or
approve it.
support
Okay,
it, yeah.
I will research if that's ours. Or if we have any jurisdiction over it.
So in other words, like, you know, if we're talking about fire hydrants, you wanna know how many there are and how we could get people involved to paint them. You know, so perhaps when are we gonna have Sunday markets, or you gonna have Sunday, you know what I mean, a time when there'd be people out and about that, you know, you could paint your hydrant or, show it off, you know, like, the sidewalk in Arcata, I'm trying to say that, in October.
Oh, like
Like the
pastels on
pastels?
that?
Yes,
Oh,
you know,
That would be fun.
you
like-
know, like something like that with the
Uh-huh.
hydrants, I'm not sure where they all are, but,
Right,
you know, it almost, so that we got the community spirit
Mhm.
involved
Uh-huh.
instead of just,
Just
okay,
hiring someone,
yeah,
yeah.
that would be fun, instead of pastels on the plaza, we could paint your fire hydrant day and
Yeah.
night, and we could
Hype your
adopt
hydrant
maybe
or
like,
hype your hydrant. or-
yeah, I mean, even if we just started in the downtown, there's not a ton of them.
Yeah.
There's
Uh-huh.
probably less than 6.
Maybe a map of where they all are would
Uh-huh.
be handy for this group.
Yeah, and I can provide, I have all of them mapped, I have them mapped on my fire department
So
app.
if it is, because I know what you're talking about, the Paso Robles Plaza, but do people submit to do that, or do they just, everybody takes a square, or, do you know what I mean,
Ye-
like?
I think businesses pay money to have somebody draw a square.
I see, okay, gotcha.
An organization pays so
Yeah.
much, I'm not sure how much.
It's like $100 for a square, to buy a square,
Yeah,
it used to be 100, it's
and it
probably
goes
2
to
now.
the
It's
city,
been a while since
or
I've
who
done
does
it
it go
before.
Well, it would go towards the project, so we
And
literally
then the
have.
artist, I think, volunteers usually unless they pay one.
Okay. And I know the Playhouse sort of facilitated the painting of the fire hydrants in Arcata, but I think that's because they had a grant that.
That's what I'm
We
wondering.
could talk with Jackie about
Because-
how they did that.
Yeah, because there's grant money, there's been grant money in Eureka to do all that painting, and that's why I was wondering about. maybe
But I
we could
do-
Look for a grant.
I like this community, you know,
Yeah, that's a
if
good
people
idea,
wanted to
especially
come
if
out.
businesses, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do almost, like I said, like a little adopt a hydrant, and
Uh-huh.
then, you know, the adoption fee would go to pay an artist to paint it. I was just looking at my, hydrant map. In the downtown, there's literally 4. So
There's
that
one
would
in
be
front of
easy.
ours, I know that.
Yeah.
Cause it was,
There's one
Yesterday.
going down towards Hatchery, there's one by the museum trail.
On Taylor.
Yeah, so there's not a ton in that area, even if we
Mhm.
started out with a half a dozen.
Mhm.
But I think especially in the downtown, just, you know,
Yeah,
like little
uh-huh.
pops of color and art, these are really
Mhm.
easy things. Is anyone
Okay, everybody?
interested in spearheading that maybe, like?
So it almost seemed like, you know, again, for me, I would think you'd wanna tie it into something else. So that, it just wouldn't be, they randomly do that, but, you know, have a buildup of some event that we have in town, some festival we're having in town, or the Sunday market, whatever. Yeah, you know, whatever to, you know, like the car show, you go and look at the cars, also you could go look at the fire hydrants. I mean,
It
I
could
think,
be like before any event or something,
Uh-huh.
like pick a, you know, like maybe a weekend. And it's yeah, something. Yeah, I think you're right. Like it would be good if it was an actual event, all the paint was available, people had been excited, you know, and like have it be an event where they go out and do it.
and so that they're just not out there doing it by themselves, there's other people coming around talking with them, or just, you know, that's excited about it, instead of, oh, I gotta go paint the deck.
Well, I think you could make it its own day if we wanted
Okay.
to,
Right, yeah.
cause we're in construction right now for the town square. So if you did something during, you know, so that it's ready, so when we have the grand opening of the town
Okay.
square, the hydrants are done as well. It's just another way to beautify the downtown.
So do you have any idea when the town square,
I think we're gonna be probably the end of June.
okay. Okay, well, I'll talk with you more, but.
Do you wanna be the,
Sure. I
in
can-
charge of that? Great.
I'll see what I
And
can do.
I'm totally willing to help you out with that.
Okay, cause again, I'm new at this, I don't quite know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can, I have a couple of ideas on how to, like I
Okay.
said, kind of maybe like an adopt a hydrant, so that
Okay.
there's some money for an artist and we can go forward.
Wanna open up to public comment?
Yeah.
Public comment?
I highly suggest that you consider not having regular artists. I appreciate the children's art way more. Their participation in the community is fantastic. I suppose you could actually have a contest where they would have a hydrant and the children could draw what they wanna put on the thing and then maybe work with an artist to actually get to that point. I think instead of the children doing graffiti under my buildings or on other places, it'd be much better for them to learn the correct places to do your art. And I think it's a wonderful thing, experience for the children. I think that the more things you can involve the young children in and start them out as artists, I think that's kind of our job as older people to bring that to fruition in whatever we're doing. With Del Arte, you have great classes there for the kids, I remember you used to have. But I strongly support involving the kids in just about everything you're doing here if you can.
So 2 weeks ago at our, Parks and Rec Commission meeting, there was a grant, an art grant, discussed, and maybe Mandy can, say whether or not that's being applied for. I think the deadline for the application is June 7th or something, and it was, I think it was art in the park, possibly. Can you comment on that, Mandy?
I do not believe that we're going to be able to qualify for that grant. If that's a much larger grant than what this is, probably much more, in tune with like a small Coast Central grant, or maybe a small Headwaters, or just a community funding. I mean, I'm thinking this is probably less than, you know, $1,000 type grant, and that was a much bigger, project.
But was it restricted to art in designated parks, or could?
You know, I don't know the full details on that. Emily was, doing the research on that grant application.
Do we know if she's gonna apply for it?
I don't know. She was doing the research, they were having a training, to see what the qualifying factors were, so I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard that.
I had 2 cents. I like what Kent said about the kids. My kids love art. Like, they love it. And anytime we've talked about in the past with your commission, like working with the school and art projects, super duper, especially if they've got some good artisans and come in with the right supplies and guidance. That's super. I think just congregating something cool like that within one spot in town would actually be kind of cool if we like spread it out, maybe just a hair, like we've got that cool hydrant down by the arena, the trail. You know, maybe instead of just making one focal point, we could have it be maybe like, you know, maybe Mandy's got the maps, but maybe we could spread it out a little bit. So it's just not like a one spot. We could have something cool over here, here, and here. Just cause it's kind of like Eureka. It's like, you know, it's like, it was cool when they started expanding. At first it was all like right here. And then once it started expanding, you're like, oh, right on, it's over here now, it's over here. So I think if we kind of just already kind of bought our little eggs here and there, and then expand out from those eggs, kind of an idea, you know, that would be maybe a suggestion I have for that.
Good, thank you. Everybody else? No more? Good. All right. We are ready to move on to the next part? All right. The next part will be, we're gonna go back to what the original five and six were, which is number 7 now. Powers Creek District Master Plan Update Discussion.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you guys, it's been such a long time. I wanted to give you guys an update on the master planning efforts and project updates for the Powers Creek District. There's a lot that is going on, and a lot of the work you guys did early on is being reflected in some of the master planning work. So that's really exciting. The city had received grant funding a couple of years ago from the Economic Development Administration to look at recreation-based economies, specifically looking at how recreation could be the new economic focus for the city of Blue Lake. As we transitioned out of industry-focused economics, looking at what would be the next focus for the community. Recreation is something that has always been on the radar for an economic pursuit, and is something that we've always done really well in Blue Lake. We've always been a baseball town, we've always been a horse town, we have beautiful parks, we have the river, fishing, you know, there's so many aspects of recreation that is just really woven within, you know, kind of the fabric of Blue Lake. So looking at using recreation as an economic footing to create kind of our next foray into economic solvency for the community is what this grant was looking at. So through that grant, we evaluated an RV park and campground and secondary and ancillary businesses that could come in support of that type of development. Through the process, we did a lot of master planning, visioning, looking at branding, looking at development within the Powers Creek district, and just kind of looking at that district a little differently than kind of that industrial context. The project came out looking really good. We have some really good performas, economic studies analysis. We have some beautiful renderings that we will be releasing out on the market now to see if there's any interest, to get some feedback, to see how that project kind of lines up with industry. And the leftover funds from that, we were able to ask our funding agency for an amendment to be able to look at continuing that master planning effort to the north side, because we are also in need of a subdivision of parcels on the north side, as well as we're moving forward with the Bottawat project, the bike park, and some of the other economic investment that's taking place in the Powers Creek district. So EDA was really supportive of that. They saw a lot of value in the work that we had done and that it was creating economic interest. And so they really liked that and wanted us to continue. So we had Storyland, who did the original master planning for the southern side, agreed to do the northern side. So we utilized the remaining funds to work with Storyland to update our master plan to not only be reflective of just the southern side of the property, but also the property in totality, so the north and south side. which is really important as we're starting to look at additional development, looking at ingress, egress, looking at pedestrian pathways, looking at trail access, just looking at the area a little more holistically, so that as we move forward with project ideas, we're doing it in a manner that's connected and more reflective of what the community has talked about. And so I wanted to give you guys a quick just kind of update on how that's starting. And these are just concepts, but the nice thing is that they're concepts that have some life of their own and are gaining some traction.
Be a nice horse like that if it was a few times bigger.
I had it there for a second.
By the way, it won't stop doing that until you actually connect to the network and agree to their terms.
Where's that?
The little pop-up that was up there earlier,
Yeah.
it's basically they want you to agree to their terms and conditions.
Okay, how do I do that? Right there?
Here?
Yeah, but you actually have to connect to the wireless internet to agree to it.
Never had to do that before.
A lot of TV service or TVs are starting to do that now.
This is
Yeah.
old. This shouldn't be doing this.
Well, it's still a smart TV, and part of what they're trying to do is make it to where you can't sue them in class action
I just
lawsuits.
turn it off and turn it on.
For like if your data gets stolen or whatever, they want you to have to do what's it called, arbitration or something, and basically so you're giving up your rights to do a class action lawsuit, and they're actually locking TVs to where you can't actually go to an input unless you do it. Some of them are. This one's just giving you an annoying pop-up for now.
So what should we do with it?
Yeah, where are we supposed to?
There it
Oh,
goes.
there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Okay.
Little buttons.
So we kind of took the ideas around the RV parking campground, and we expanded it to be the big idea be about the whole Powers Creek district as a whole. So we've kind of updated the vision and kind of the reflection of the values of what we're trying to portray into the Powers Creek district in totality. Some of the imagery, this is the bike park. If you guys have been down there, you'll have noticed that we have a lot of piles of dirt. We have the start of a jump line. And this is going to be a really an amazing anchor feature for the Powers Creek district. This is a project that's being built by volunteers, and we are actively working on making those improvements and building that infrastructure. So that's a really exciting project. A lot of what had been talked about in the district was kind of this use of woods, timbers, metals, the natural environment, native plants, integration of recreation space into functional space. So, you know, being able to make additional maybe recreation features as you walk along a trail, maybe it bulbs out and there's a skate feature that then flows back into maybe the bike park. So just thinking about creating additional opportunities with the space that we have. So maybe a space for a fire pit or a covered space that could be multitasked for different reasons. So they really kind of kept all that in mind as they started to try to build a concept. These are just some rendering or images of some of that as it's translated into building materials, design, once again, a lot of timber, metals, lots of windows, because we are in a really beautiful natural environment, and we don't want to have, we want the buildings and the space to connect, so that use of indoor-outdoor space, multifunctional space, is something that we really wanted to kind of capture.
Is this supposed to say dining?
Yes, you caught
I
that
know,
last time, I haven't
yeah.
updated my presentation.
I'm a good editor.
She's really good
Dang.
at retail dinging.
I like the look of this.
Yeah, yeah, this
Those
is
are really,
nice.
Yeah,
Very
and
nice.
then something that they brought to the table that we hadn't really started to think about was just the future of the river access. You know, right now, you know, these are pie in the sky type of thought processes. Obviously, these are huge multi-million-dollar infrastructure installations, but it's something to keep in mind that you know, what we have now isn't what we are always going to have, and we're not boxed in necessarily. So in the future, as we think about more connectivity to the river and connecting spaces, thinking about what that connectivity starts to look like. This was the one that I was really interested in this. These are just little cantilevered spaces where people can sit and overlook I think this is probably some type of waterway, it doesn't look like a river. But, you know, we also have a levee that we can't really do much with, but maybe there's an opportunity to create some platform spaces so that you can enjoy that space a little bit more and integrate with it a little bit differently. So just thinking, keeping this in mind, and I really appreciated that they brought this up because this wasn't something that was really, I think, on our radar, but now, you know, as we continue to evolve, these are things that we're starting to think about, especially now that the city has site control and we have, our ownership has been reestablished with the power plant site. So there's, you know, it's a really big space, and thinking about how that space connects to the river in a different way than it does now. There's a lot of opportunities.
I like this thing on the right, middle right, or whatever, that one right there.
This
This
walk-
little
yeah.
walkway.
Nice walk, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's like
isn't pretty?
nice walkways, nice,
Yeah,
make it safer
Right,
to,
safe and you're.
safer
immerse
and
the
enjoyable
tree,
for people to walk.
And you know, we have the Powers Creek Restoration Project that we're working on right now, and thinking about maybe that's just kind of a pathway off the main trail that creates a kind of a wooden walkway or something along the creek with maybe a little outlook platform to be able to see some of those restoration features that we'll be installing for fish habitat.
Are
So
people allowed to fish in that ocean, in that river? No?
in the past,
Yeah.
Can you?
yeah, oh,
Okay, when it goes
yeah,
over.
it's got some of the best steelheading around if it doesn't blow out. So they started just kind of looking at wayfinding, just to kind of show that they're kind of thinking about this, like I said, in totality, all the different types of needs. This was kind of like if it was lit up and.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being cohesive from beginning, you know, all
Yeah.
the way through town.
And these aren't too exciting, but just they were trying to think of all aspects of development, and it's kind of fun, you know, they put these, you know, our names in there, and you know, it's just kind of.
Are those designs QR codes? They almost look like them.
Oh, I don't know, they're actually, it's rock,
Oh,
so
okay.
they're like actually rock pages, and then you could put like, river rock in those, so, yeah.
It'd be kinda cool,
Everything
if-
looks
it'd
like
be
a
kinda
QR
cool if you
code
did a
now.
QR code where if you did take a picture of it,
Right.
it would give you,
Give
you know, like
information.
Yeah,
information of
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, so then we started looking at, you know, parcel line configurations, cause that's part of, the work that we need to have done. We had these right now, so this is a recommended parcel line configuration. Some of the city properties are pretty big. There's 3 properties here, the lines weren't, delineated, adequately, so, the other aspect of this project that EDA is funding is the survey, for the subdivision. So you'll see this carve out here, this is actually the city's property, that's the old dump. It's accessed right now for vehicles via Ivy Lane, which is about a 12-foot wide, very narrow little lane, pretty bounded on both sides by residential development. So it's never been very accessible, but it's highly accessible if there was a pedestrian bridge along the trail that went over the creek and into this space. So we wanted to look at ways to incorporate more green space into the development. That had been something that, you know, we heard from some members of the public that you know, people have kind of gotten used to this being green space, which, it's green space, but it was never designated as park space. It's always been designated for development. But just recognizing that, you know, with this a little bit higher density development, there are some concerns about losing some aspects of that. So thinking about putting more emphasis on what could be done on this, property became, more important. So, you know, thinking with this development, you know, you're gonna have a bike park here and then integrating this into another park. So you have a large section, a large amount of acreage, that gets returned back to park features, which I think is really nice. So the restoration project that we're working on right now to restore Powers Creek, takes into consideration the installation of a pedestrian bridge. So I think that's kind of exciting. This is where the Botawat project would be, this parcel here. And then this starts to break into additional parcels that the city could develop here, city corporation yards here. Obviously this is the power plant site. So, kind of move on. So this, they started kind of blocking in, development. This would be the Botawat project. They started putting in, opportunities for parking. This represents a project that the owners of Paradise Cay have brought to the council as an interest, and we're actively working with them on some ideas. They have been looking at some live-work units where they would have 2 apartments on the top, and then the downstairs would be retail, commercial, light manufacturing, office space, opportunities.
So the master plan, they're gonna expand into the power plant area?
So this is the master plan for the RV park and campground on the power plant site.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the camp there, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
What about to the right of it?
To the right, okay, I'll talk about that. So,
Looks like a sports field or something.
well, oh my gosh, I really said that, that's like.
It is.
Oh, that's
Okay.
nice. So,
Just saying.
as we've been working on this project, the owner of, this property, the owner of B&B, Tavis Kane and his family have, been very interested, especially interested in this project. Tavis is really supportive of the RV park and campground, and in fact was hoping that he would have a way to maybe start it on his property. But his family is also now in an exclusive negotiating agreement with the city for the city corporation yard. They're proposing to purchase that property and to develop that property into a, they're looking at a shipping container village, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen
Yeah.
shipping container villages, they're pretty cool. And so they want to move out, kind of outside of some of their current business, styles and types, and move into some, recreation focused, retail, commercial, food, residential type development. So we're in the process right now of working with them on this project, which is great. But there's also some, ideas for this property, which, is a sports complex, which is, really exciting. So there's
The
a,
B&B place.
yeah, the B&B place, yeah. So there's a group that has a nonprofit that's been working for several years on the development of an indoor and outdoor recreation complex. And they've been looking for about 5 acres of land to be able to do that. And, they've had some trouble trying to find land. Land has, seems like every parcel they've looked at has had some type of issue, whether it's wetlands or maybe some industrial issues, environmental waste that needs to be cleaned up. So the architect for this project, the Botawat project now, is Garrett McSorley. He is also the architect for the sports complex, and he brought the project to us a while back and was like, hey, you know, as this is pretty exciting, would you guys be interested in a sports complex project, like maybe on the power plant site? And when we worked on the ozone, we specifically wrote in a sports complex as kind of a principally permitted type of development, because it was something that we really wanted to attract. And I was like, hey, you know what, this is a perfect 5-acre parcel right here, and I know Tavis is interested in doing something different with it. So they connected, and they're now in talks about doing something here that would be more sports focused. It's a huge opportunity for Blue Lake, it's a huge need in the sporting community, especially with youth sports, to have some indoor, outdoor facilities where kids can be training, working out, through the winter. And I think Blue Lake is perfectly positioned to be able to house that, which would be great for us because it becomes a real anchor. You know, as parents are coming in, they're dropping off their kids, you know, maybe for practice for a couple hours. There's so much opportunity for people to,
You gotta go get something to drink.
you gotta
while
get
they're
something to
waiting.
drink. Maybe you bring your bike out and you go for a bike ride. You know, you go for a walk, a jog, go shopping, go get some lunch. You know, I take my son multiple times a week to practices, and Sundays he has a 2-hour practice. And sometimes this last Sunday I was stuck at Bear River for 2.5 hours, just going like, ugh. But if I was stuck someplace here, I would love to be stuck in Blue Lake, and like I would just throw my bike in or something, you know. And so it provides a lot of opportunities for other businesses to take advantage of people that are using this facility. Plus, it gets rid of toilets.
Yeah, the toilets, that was what I couldn't help but think.
Yeah, and have it, you know, we've talked a lot through this zoning process about his property and the value of his property, and he recognized that rezoning put his property at a much higher value, and so like he told me, it won't be toilets forever. So he's really excited about the recreation side, and I think it's a project that if they can kind of come to some consideration, is something that could happen really quickly, because he has an 11,000 square foot building already that could be transitioned immediately into indoor batting cages, training facilities, and then even if he had to do a phase 1 project where maybe this half of the project was sports and then he still used this as storage or something, you could at least still get that rolling, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, I just always remember me and my brother riding bikes around Blue Lake, and we'd go down that street, there was nothing on that road.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, and you know, just to think that you can go down that road maybe in a few years or whatever this is done, and you have an unbelievable amount of things to do on that street.
Yeah, and a lot of focus, like I said, you know, this is a big recreation anchor, you know, so it's really nice, and then of course we have the river.
And I was gonna say that I was worried about the view for the construction here, looking this way because of the plant there, and I was like, what is the view of the plant?
Yeah,
And then
it won't be a plant forever.
now I can see that there's gonna be a better view there across the street.
I always look at that and think water park, because, I mean, it looks like one.
You need a tetanus shot though.
Yeah.
So some of the interesting aspects of this is just looking at circulation crossing. One of the things that we want to do is make a new crossing for the trail. This is a very, very dangerous crossing right now where the current trail crosses. It's something that we've been very concerned about. So we'd like to bring that trail crossing here and then have the trail come down this way and then enter into. So we're keeping people out of this kind of intersection. You know, the gravel trucks come through, there's a lot of contractors down there. It gets dusty, people are letting their dogs out of their cars are right on top of people. So now, since the city has control of the power plant, we can start talking about better connectivity, safer spaces, slowing down traffic, we were working very closely with Pepe on all of this, and now I believe Hooven is part of that gravel operation. So we've talked a lot with Dave just about, you know, the dream of this and how these uses, you know, can be compatible, and they truly can be compatible. I mean, we have trucks coming through town all day long.
This is planted trees all over it. Do you have any idea what the planted trees will be?
You know, I don't. I mean, they would
should
be
be
like
something
native
native,
conifers
yeah.
and, yeah.
Some kind of oak? Or?
Possibly, yeah. And like I said, this is just an idea,
It's not pine
but
trees.
it's giving us, there
Yeah,
are
not
also
pine trees.
ideas that are, kind of backed up by either interest or numbers, so, it brings a lot of value.
Something pretty.
So this is just kind of a more, drilled in
Not
look
palm
at the
trees.
north side,
Yeah.
so you can kind of see, and this is the south side. Here, you some really cool stuff. So,
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's pretty.
so this is what Storyland really specializes in. They take your idea and they really make it come to life. And so they've taken this and spatially represented it on our existing parcels. So this is reflective of the city's, of the Powers Creek district. You can see the bike park down here. This would be the Bottlewatt project, the park space over here, the connectivity, the different road segments. They drilled down on some of the existing projects that, this would be kind of a container village. This is Mondo Way. And we've always said Mondo Way is so weird.
Is that Jules?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were like, what if we looked at Mondo Way instead of like a cul-de-sac, we looked at it as a plaza? And so that it became more of a central point for the businesses down there, and you could do more with it. And, connecting, putting that road through so that there's more connectivity, there's more walkable space. It takes some of the impact.
What is this?
So that is, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is when people came across a pedestrian bridge, because we feel that this project is gonna be, the Powers Creek district is gonna be accessed by a lot of different ways. I think the majority of people are gonna access the Powers Creek district via a trail. And so when you come across from the horse arena, across the bridge, we didn't want people entering into this high density development, this overwhelming type of, overarching buildings. So we asked them to look at creating a gateway space. And so that's what they've done here, but we also wanted it to be usable by any businesses and things out here, so that you could have like outdoor seating, you could have outdoor eating. It would be a great place if you got a cup of coffee to go and sit in an outdoor space and be able to, interact with and socialize. And then creating this as more of a plaza versus just a cul-de-sac gives you opportunity to utilize it in different ways. So you'll see that it's represented with a couple of food trucks here. And they drew in, and like I said, these are just concepts, but they're, reflective of kind of some of the thoughts that have been generated. So they did like an outdoor fireplace with shade seating, because it really does get hot over there. But then you can have additional outdoor seating and gathering space. So if people are getting food from the food truck, you could go out here and sit. It would give a lot of exposure for Jewel Distillery. This is actually an addition, because one of the things they talked about was don't feel boxed in by what you have. Think about what it could be added. So thinking of this as like the main structure existing, but what if you bumped out an addition onto it and that became a really, like a nicer tasting room, maybe with a food source, and they put the little silo grain things representing the gin and stuff. So so connecting their business.
This is the container village?
So this is the container village. Yeah, so they really love the idea of the container village. In fact, they were like, oh, I wonder if like we could work on that project and define it more, but they didn't have a lot of time, so it looks a little bit like Legos. But they're like, container villages are super fun to work on. And you can see that there's different types of parking. So instead of just having this linear parking, creating these little carve outs and creating spaces for people to walk and making it safe so that people can ride their bikes and traffic slows down a bit, and we don't have these big parking areas, but we have little carve outs. So we still have a lot of green space and space to interact in different ways. And then this is Ryan Russo and Alicia's, their existing building. They have a 3-phase development plan that we're working with them right now. I think they're getting that one permitted. So they're working on phase 2. And they didn't have any plans. They didn't have Ryan's plans at the time, so they just we kind of described what was going on, and so they just kind of filled in the gaps. And then this would be a phase 3. Like I said, these aren't set in stone, but as we're starting to talk about things, this is just really what they specialize in, is helping you to really see this in its own content. So
I really like that mural.
isn't that cool?
Yeah, that looks really cool. I was thinking
Yeah.
the same thing.
So this is representing some of the ideas that the owners of Paradise Cay have talked about. They've talked about these kind of live-work units that could be condoed off and, they wanted to kind of start with 4 and then see how that went and then go for another 4. So we're in discussions with them right now about entering into a negotiating agreement as well for this parcel. And this is just reflecting, kind of some of their concept ideas, so it'd be, you know, retail, commercial, light manufacturing, office, whatever on the bottom floor, and then 2 apartments above each unit, which, you know, is really great, because it gives you income, it provides housing, which we desperately need, but it also makes it a little bit more manageable for anyone who's investing in retail, commercial, that, you know, that open space is a little bit more of the unknown quantity, but knowing that you have that income coming in from your rental units is really helps to kind of balance out that investment. So that you can see they've kind of benched it back each time. Our zoning requires that as you get closer to the creek, your height starts to bench down, or it can bench up the further you get away from it. So that's kind of reflective of that, kind of that step development. But you can also see, so now this will be a new throughway that would connect across, which gives a lot more ability to think about what could be done on the backside of these buildings. It gives a lot more capacity for deliveries, so people aren't pulling in and out on the street and blocking traffic like they currently do. So it starts to connect spaces a little bit better. And this is looking from the green space that could be developed as part of the city's, the old dump right there, turning that into a small park, just creating maybe a space for, maybe it's another little gathering space, but like I said, it's all pedestrian focused, so there won't be any vehicles. The pedestrian bridge would be designed to, you know, carry, you know, golf cart type thing, or probably a car could drive over it if necessary, but really focusing that on more pedestrian access.
You could put, some, tables out there, and you could have, it could be like a place where people could have gatherings, camp, or, not camp, not camp.
Weddings.
Not camp, I meant like, you know, yeah, outside events, that people like,
Retreats,
parties.
weddings,
yeah, I've had
family
like birthday parties
reunions.
outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I've had them on the river there.
And this, you can kind of see the Bottawatt project and how that's starting to lay out. This would be the backside of these developments. So there's still lots of interactive space, even if this thing was fully built out. So that's kind of the end of that. Yeah, so, like I said, you know, this is all conceptual, somewhat, you know, it is based upon either existing interest or, ideas. But, so I wanted to give you guys an update on that and let you know that part of what they've also done was take into consideration mural space, art installation space, which is all something you guys have been working on. So that was all translated, to them as well to, you know, keep on the radar, so.
So where are we at this point with the Bottawatt?
Yeah, so, I just glossed over that. So the Bottawatt project is, right now Garrett is finalizing the site layout, and he's writing up his, project description. And then the final CEQA, documents are being, prepared, and then that will be going to the planning commission probably in the next month or 2, for, hopefully for approval, but at least for consideration. So yeah,
So you guys have been busy.
it's been really busy.
In the last 8 months,
Yeah.
last thing we were looking at was just that little, triangle
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Yeah. No, you know, it's really, kind of taken on a life of its own in some respects, but I think it's all reflective of, there was a lot of work that was done early on to try and get this right. You know, there was a lot of meetings, there was a lot of thought, there was a lot of, you know, pushing and pulling, and I think the zone is reflective of the types of development that's being proposed, and I think it's great. I think, to me, you know, we're actually getting the things that we hope to get through writing that zone. You know, we're seeing that come to fruition. So, yeah, I think, I feel like we're on a really good track, and, the nice thing is there's a lot of business people that, feel the same way, that are wanting to invest in the community and, really see this vision. So it's great. Yeah, we've got, some really good partners right now, and, so yeah, so things are moving forward.
Good. public comment?
Yeah, I've been looking at this project, and what I do is I have a lot of friends who do major projects like this. And, right now they're backing out of a lot of their projects because if you're aware of what's happening in California's economy, the worldwide economy and the economy, my understanding is grant funding for anything drying up, and a lot of people are looking only toward premium projects where they already have a high density traffic areas, because that's where they make their money. My understanding is that some of these particular things have been looked at by our rancheria, which have an extreme advantage in that they don't have to pay taxes on things. They did feasibility studies for some of these projects, including the RV park, and found out it didn't seem to pencil out for them. So, it's an interesting thing. Let's go in and looking at these things. This is now going out to the public so they can see what's being proposed. And then we were looking forward to a very long process where we get feedback from the public as far as what it is. Again, the biggest concern of mine is that the housing that would be enabling the artisans to actually live and work in the same area. That's what this whole thing was designed for, and that's what all should be, in my opinion, at least 80%, that should be actually to benefit work aboard or live and work aboard situations for the artist and any other craftsman. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on that particular topic.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm just gonna say, I wouldn't want you guys to get the impression you've been ditched. I don't think you've been ditched. Bob, the chair of planning commission's my neighbor. They haven't had meetings in a while. He's kind of planned his whole life around them being at the meetings, but so they're kind of buying too. This will be all new material for them as well. So I would suggest perhaps, since we haven't had a planning commission in a minute, you guys gotta actually get a pretty prima donna preview, that if you have any thoughts or suggestions, that maybe one of you could, show up there or talk to one of the commissioners with your thoughts and inputs. Mandy knows how to direct that more appropriately, so you don't have, meeting action weirdness that, she knows the rules. But I think, get your input in there. We're just seeing this for the first time, and planning commission has been on stall, and I think they need our community to help get that input in now, because now it's gonna have to jump. It's gotta go now. It's been sitting on the burner. It's hot.
And there's a bunch more hydrants to paint down there with these.
Yeah.
I looked at your box, I think that's telephone box.
What?
I drove by the box.
Oh, you
there.
did?
I think that may be telephone, it didn't look like a PG&E was. They're usually pretty easy.
You have to,
Okay.
you have to ask people not to just start talking.
We can't.
She does not get to ask you to tell me what to do. That's
I
assigned.
also apologize for my, I've not done this in a while, and I'm really out of practice.
You're doing great.
And
So-
that's the thing to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna try to keep on schedule here.
Okay, yep, yeah.
Alright, so we ready to move on?
Uh-huh.
Alright, let's move on to Town Square project update and recommendation for concrete stamps and colors.
Yeah, so this was another project that you guys had an ad hoc committee for, and those people are no longer,
True.
on the commission, and we're at kind of a critical crunch time right now for, finalizing the concrete, stamps and colors for the town square. Fortunately, it's not a overly complicated, design, and I apologize that the copy is really dark.
I'm like, what is this?
Yes.
I did look at it online.
So basically what we have, if you look at the design, everything that's dark is going to be, concrete. And then everything that's light will be, grass and landscaping. And part of the reasoning for that is we have to have ADA accessibility to the space, and it's very hard to, have ADA accessibility, on lawn and then trying to create walkways in a small space. So what the designers recommended was just keeping all of this hardscape, because the little square in the middle, that's the kids' water feature. So that is going to be.
Off to the right, off to the right.
Sorry, so right here.
Yes, okay,
This is,
okay.
yeah, so this is gonna be the water feature. This will all be grass, and part of the reasoning for that is in the future, we're gonna have to deal with, the concrete wall along Powers Creek. It's obviously failing. And the thought is that we may be able to match, how the creek is handled over by the post office. It doesn't have concrete barriers, it's laid back naturally. And it provides a really nice opportunity to interact with the space more. So we wanted to leave plenty of room to be able to deal with that in the future, because that is a consideration that we're well aware of, that there's a problem. So portions of the kind of the perimeter of the town square is has been identified as a brick pattern, and that was part of the original design. And then kind of the interior is more of this these large 8x8 squares. They're asking us to pick kind of a slate. It's a stamp. That way, because a lot of the stamps have a lot of irregularity, and what you have is you get a lot of inconsistency with heights because of it, which causes issues for ADA compliance. So if someone has a walker or in a wheelchair and they're hitting, you know, those inconsistencies, it can be really,
You
really
want it to be
difficult.
like a brick, and it's, you want it to be more.
More
flat.
flat and more, not a lot of transition. So I wasn't sure how you guys, this is kind of a wonky process, and I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to maybe have a couple people kind of take this on. I have to meet with the concrete contractor next week to provide him with our final recommendation, and that way, and at that point we could, you know, get some colors from him and some ideas. He did provide a recommendation. Here. Obviously they don't look that exciting, but that's kind of the brick pattern. There is an opportunity, you could do like a wood pattern, but I wasn't sure, because of the way it's broken up, you know, and it's so linear, I wasn't really sure how that would quite look. So what they were recommending is either going with an exposed aggregate like this or this, which I also thought would be bumpy, but I guess they can get it really flat. Or going
like
with
that.
this.
I like that,
Yeah.
yes.
So this
That's
is what
better.
they're recommending, and these would be an 8-foot by 8-foot squares. And I think that would be really nice.
Right.
And so they do kind of they do an integral color, that's like the colors in the actual cement, and then they do a relief color so that you get that, the depth. Yeah,
Yeah, that's much better looking.
yeah.
And
I
also
mean-
that company I saw, looked, they have animal stamps,
They
animal
do,
track stamps.
Yeah, so one of the things that
Oh,
we
you
are
talked
looking
about
at
that.
is
Yes,
doing something like that for the splash pad area.
Okay.
And we'd also like to do the splash pad of blue, so that it delineates it as a space. And they have these artesian water-based stains that, these are really, really expensive, but for a small space, our contractor was like, yeah, you can make it happen. So we're kind of looking at this,
Oh, yeah.
this deep sea blue, because it still has a little bit of the browns in it, and it has some texture, so it's not like a solid blue,
Right.
but it provides a different color. So we would kind of, you know, we would have the brick and then the slate stone, and then the blue, so we'd have those kind of breaks and colors.
So you can have a break and mix them, artistically.
Yeah, and so then we thought we could maybe see if we could get some stamps of like
Yes.
maybe some fish, for the splash pad feature.
I saw
And
that there's a salmon, and then there's different
Yeah.
animal tracks.
Yeah, and there's even like leaves, you can do like different leaves and things in there, so, so we thought that would be a good space to kind of work on that. The splash pad is, what it looks like we're gonna be going with is a foot sensor splash pad, so, 'cause that was one of our ideas, we were like, how are we gonna turn this thing on and off? So basically it's a foot sensor, the kids run over, they put their foot on it, the fountains come up, they're on for 45 seconds or whatever, you know, so it keeps them like moving back and forth, but we don't have to have them on all the time. And I think there's 6 different sprayers. So yeah, so it'll be really fun. Yeah. So if you guys are okay with that slate and this, then I can just get the contract.
There you go.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, I think we're good.
And I like that color that you've presented, cause it
Yeah,
goes well,
yeah.
I mean, it complements the blue.
It does, yeah.
Is it sort of the walnut,
Definitely.
is it the walnut color?
I really like that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that'll look nice.
Now, is it gonna have a break with the, like that, with the?
It will have, so it doesn't have this unless I can somehow calm.
Is it gonna mix
Yeah.
right next to the blue?
We will have something that kind of delineates it and
Good,
breaks it
good.
up, yeah.
That's
I
what
know,
was
I'm a
thinking.
very like I outline everything before I color, you know, so I have a hard time if things aren't like, like a border, like borders. So yeah, so we'll work with Sequoia on how we can kind of do that, but yeah, so they will
Just
have the
in
groove
yeah,
marks,
should have a
so it won't
break.
be
Yes,
one big solid
exactly.
surface, but. Cool, well that, you guys made that really easy, that's
Which
a
is
great
why I think
recommendation, so.
that's why they had the stone breaks like that wide in between them, that, you know, you have like a set color and then you have a generic, like a, you know, a base, and then you have a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just having like one color on top of another color right on them, they're just like, it creates like a, it almost makes you feel kind of weird. Doesn't it?
Well,
When the
yeah.
two kind
Yeah,
of colors
let's
are.
have borders or,
Yeah.
just
Great,
borders big.
alright, well that's that. Yeah, so we're in full swing on construction. They're doing the underground utilities right now. We needed to make this decision by early next week, so that's great, so cause they're gonna start forming up for concrete work. So, yeah, it's going
Are
really
there
well.
benches?
There will be benches,
Same
yeah.
benches
Good.
coming back?
Yeah, we're gonna
or-
bring the same benches back. We also have trees going back in. We saved like 95% of the landscaping, so that everything's down at the courtyard.
What kind of trees?
We have flowering cherries and maples, I think, were in there. And then there will also be solar lighting, like kind of that decorative, historical lighting, that will be really nice. The bathrooms going in. ADA parking. There will also be a trellis shade structure. So yeah, so that's gonna be nice. North Fork Lumber is actually donating the lumber for that, so that's great.
Good.
And I think what we're going to do is, I think that's something we've always kind of talked about being maybe a community project. So Sequoia's gonna install all the footings, for that, and then we're gonna see if we can do kind of a community install for, it's just a trellis. So we'll have the lumber from North Fork, and then, we've already had several people state, that they'd love to help work on that, so, that will be a nice, you know, kind of community project, so.
About how big is it again?
The
The trellis.
trellis is pretty good size, because the goal of it is to kind of block that other property.
So.
To the
8
south.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a fence going up there?
There, well, what we talked about is maybe putting a, like a lattice siding on the south side, and then we would plant it with, vines or, you know, something that, right, would look really pretty. And so there's actually planters, if you see on the plan, there are also, planters identified too, so that we can put the plants back in. But yeah, it's really, part of that is just kind of screen what's there, hoping that
Why
in
stay
the
with the
future
fresh
it won't be
air?
there forever,
Hopefully.
so, that's another project we're working on. But yeah.
So is it like 10 feet by 10 feet, or
Oh,
20 feet, 10 by 10 feet, or?
no,
I'm just kind of, they don't say.
honestly, I can't tell on the plan set, but I can get you those dimensions.
It's okay, it's relatively large.
Yeah, like I said, the intent of it is to, provide some separation from the southern property.
Alright. Alright, so, public comment?
These kind of projects are things I've done in the past, being a general engineering contractor. My design would have been entirely different. I believe Mother Nature has grass for a reason, and there's no problem with ADA compliance out in Faribault Park. Instead of paving it all with stamped concrete, that would have been my design, and it would have been easily compliant for all ADA compliant. I think maybe the trellis, if I remember, is probably 6 by 20 or 6 by 30. It seems to be that, where we were asking the question, if I recall. I like stamped concrete. I've never seen this particular wash to slate, but you can do slate, very, very beautiful. If we were in Mexico, where I do a lot of my things down there, of course, the splash pad would all be done in beautiful tile work. That's what we do down there. But we're here in Humboldt County, so I do support that, you know, it's interesting, it didn't really look like slate that I'm used to, because of its one gigantic piece of slate, I guess is what it is. I'm used to slate pavers, you know, and done by artisans and artistically done. So anyway, I hope it turns out okay. I hope you guys are all happy with the project. There have been many of us along the way who would have liked to have seen the grass remaining Mother Nature's thing, kind of like taking Mother Nature's thing and paving it and turning it into a town center. That's just my opinion as far as the artistic endeavor.
All right. Any,
As someone who uses mobility vehicles and uses walkers and his brother in a wheelchair, I just would like clarification that slate is majorly smooth, or like not a lot of ridges and bumps, and because that's a pain in the neck for someone with a hard wheel. Those things, you feel every single crack.
Right.
My brother actually came out of his wheelchair coming down the sidewalk there by that big White House across from the school. He hit one of those cracks in that sidewalk and it actually launched him out of his wheelchair. So I just would like to know if that's actually truly true.
Yeah. So, and that was the concern of Sequoia, because originally we looked at some different, stamp patterns and that had a lot more, ridges and things to it. And when we talked about the ADA accessibility, that was their big concern, because obviously they have to build to code. And they said, we can't always mate code with those types of, concrete patterns. So that was why they recommended this, because they felt confident that, those ridge lines and bumps and things are eliminated. And even though you get a lot of coloration, through the staining process, you're not gonna get a lot of, changes in texture.
Okay.
And I agreed, after I had my spinal surgery and I was, on crutches and a walker, the world is completely different. Every little crack is a potential for an accident.
No
So
one truly understands the limitations until you're
Absolutely.
required to use
Yeah.
that piece of
Yeah,
equipment.
it was a real eye opener for me, just how everyday things can present a big issue, so.
am I allowed to say something?
Yeah.
Okay. My wife's, father is disabled in a wheelchair, and I have to, when he comes to America from China, I have to wheel him around, push him around all over the place. I even pushed him around Europe, which has like almost they have no compliance over there at all. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I had to pick him up in the wheelchair and bring him down like 100 yards of steps. So I know exactly how, like, beyond what you're talking about there, so. All right, any more comments? No? All right, ready to move on? All right, sorry, I'm so.
No, you're good, you're good,
You're
great.
Okay, let's go on to the
Fine.
next, the real number 10, ad hoc committee updates, middle school.
Yeah, so I don't know if that, ad hoc exists anymore either. So, that's another one, if you guys wanna bring that back for a future agenda item and think
Maybe
about that.
future,
Yeah.
It's like, were we part of it?
I think we might have been,
You know, until we have something more,
yes. I think I wanna work on the fire hydrants right now.
Yeah, well, I think, we lost some critical people that were working with these ad hocs, and they're just not there anymore.
Right,
So I would say, we open it up to
future.
future, yeah, but,
Well, if we
any,
put it,
are we done?
I'm just curious, just to know the structure of it, if we're tabling it or if we're moving it to another agenda, do we open it to discussion or do we wait till then?
You pretty much have to have the public comment on
That's
every
what I
item.
I'm just curious.
Okay, public comment?
Normally ad hocs are for a limited amount of time, duration, and it usually is like 6 months, usually less than a year. And at a year one time, it would have to usually be redone again and re-voted on, so that you may find that's the normal process for that.
Thank you. All right, we're done with Number 11, we're done with that, we're gonna go on to number 11. Number 11 is future agenda items and announcements.
So I have notes of establish officers and do the ad hoc mural and sculpture. I don't know if there's anything else, does that make sense?
Adding that
Do
to
you
the
need to
future
establish,
agenda.
cause there aren't any officers, I mean, we have, you're still the chairperson, but I don't know, if there's no secretary.
Yeah, so we do need secretary. And then I also have your art-based traffic calming and the fire hydrant project, we can just keep that on, so you guys can keep talking about that each time. Until you don't need to talk about it anymore.
And then there was the heritage
Oh, definitely.
question, definition. Add. So, murals and sculptures, that was also included in like the Power Creek, as well as around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think your ad hoc was looking at all opportunities to
Right.
advocate for, murals and sculptures, and then also to, I think Sherry, you worked with Frank to get the one on the
Sierra,
creek.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sierra.
yeah, so,
I mean, he kinda did it on his own, but
Uh-huh.
yes.
but yeah, looking for spaces and opportunities if those arise, so, so if nothing else, just,
It's
keep
just
it
kinda
on your
fluid,
radar.
it's not like there's anything right really to
Yeah,
focus
And I
on
think
right now,
at the
is it?
point where you have an actual project
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
that puts it into a different realm, but,
Right.
it's, just being an advocate too is great for this commission.
Like this, can the city establish certain, like, places where the sculptures could be?
Well,
and
I think that
create
was
a
part of what you
base?
guys were doing, is you were coming up with a recommendation for, locations of sculptures and murals.
But then can there be like a base put there, so that somebody could put their sculpture and attach it?
Yeah, I know in the past, when Susan was here, we had talked about, being able to have like installed bases so that you could have,
Yeah.
revolving installations and how that works, and I think she had looked at Cloverdale.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that definitely could be an option. We talked about, cause in the past, I know Cash had done that design for an art walk and had identified locations where, installations could go, so. If nothing else, I think it just needs to stay at the forefront as we look at development, that
Right,
those things are folded into the planning for those.
So should it stay on the agenda for next time, or
I
should it
think
come back
so.
for, in
I
a
think it's
specific
okay,
realm?
even if you don't have anything to
Okay.
report or,
Sure.
it's, I
Just
think
there
it's
if
good to have.
something is
Yeah.
happening, yeah.
It's kind of I feel like it's kind of like a category, for you guys to kind of keep that focus. That has been what you guys had initially talked about, or some of the areas that you really wanted to focus on.
I mean, so for murals, it has to be a public place, so it's not,
Well, and we're talking about doing a mural on the front of of this new walkway. We're gonna be doing some additional walkway work, and we talked with the contractor because for some reason, it's getting like this weird patina to it, and,
What walkway are you talking
this
about?
walkway right out here, so
Oh.
to the library.
oh,
And so we
okay.
said, well, what if we just have the contractor paint it, put a coat of, good paint on it, seal it, and then we could do a mural along here, which could be really fun, especially for the kids, like, colorful and leading up to the library, could be a nice little spot too, so like picking out places where these things can go, I think is, an opportunity.
Anything else for agendas?
Are everybody here done? Okay. Public comment?
So I do have some suggestions, we're looking at a wonderful thing that happened on the Lynchburg store. That's one of the most beautiful things I think we have in Blue Lake, where we have that beautiful picture there. I happen to own the Emporium building, and I've always felt that along the trail there, that whole side of that building can in some way be incorporated into a mural of some type, if people were desiring to do so. I would be willing to look at that, particularly as far as the site goes. Right at the end of the trail, there's 2 drain inlets there that are totally covered in weeds frequently, and the plants don't do well there. But I believe those could be